denn bloß der Wink. Verändert scheint alles hier. Seit Ewigkeiten schein ich zu wandern und niemand dir hilft.
On behalf of Tony and Jamie, Reinhard, Chris, Ethan, and Bella, I welcome you to this musical celebration of the life of Lesley Manring-Borchers, who joined this world on October 30th, 1949, and left us on January 8th, 2023. I'm Sue Stefford-Grey, her friend now for 25 years. I'll be starting us off this evening with a couple of remembrances of mine, but I want to alert you to the opportunity you'll have a little bit later in this program to share some remembrances of your own. So be thinking if you'd like to share one later. Lesley and I met when she appeared one Sunday morning at the door of the Family of Christ Presbyterian Church here in Greeley. Her wild and passionate spirit was looking for a safe place to land and set up shop. She stayed after the service and talked to my pastor husband, Steve Brown, for about an hour, completely stressed out by what I thought at the time were her son Tony's rather normal teenage rebellions. I can remember thinking, this woman is going to be a lot of work. And that first impression was not entirely wrong. Lesley's large-scale emotional life, her great energy for justice causes, her frequent requests for help with whatever project she was working on, her nonstop multitasking, all of that could really be quite exhausting. How many of you have ever tried to tell Lesley, no, Les, I just can't do that, only to have her push just a little bit harder until you finally gave in? But when I imagined on our first meeting that Les was going to drain my limited energy, I was wrong. Because Les not only asked a lot of us, she also poured herself out to meet our needs, gifting those she loved with her time, her open-hearted service, her small gifts from the thrift stores, her brilliance as a musician and linguist. As we acknowledge tonight with this celebration, Lesley's voice and music making were truly a divine gift. And we're here tonight to give thanks for that. During the Lenten liturgical season that's quickly coming to a close for Christians, the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Philippians said about Jesus that though his state was that of God, yet he did not deem equality with God something he should cling to. Rather, he emptied himself. And being made in human likeness, he humbled himself by becoming obedient unto death, even death on a cross. Now, Les would be horrified to hear me comparing her to Jesus. She said, no, Sue, take that back. But apart from the dying on the cross part, Les, in her fierce generosity of spirit and her kindness, and in her recent years, her suffering, she bore a strong resemblance to the one she followed, and to whom she's now returned. So we who are left behind to remember this, in Tony's words, world-class woman, Lesley Manring-Borchers, we move on now to celebrate her life with music and memories. So I'll start us off with a poem. Joyce Grenfell wrote, "If I should go before the rest of you, break not a flower nor inscribe a stone, nor when I'm gone speak in a Sunday voice, but be the usual selves that I have known. Weep if you must, parting is hell. But life goes on, so sing as well." So let's sing.
Ryan tells me I've committed a few words. I'll make them few. Any real concert artist uses the human voice as a model. Nothing else works. I had to convince my cello students of this because they would never stop with the bow. They didn't have to breathe. I said, you're going to turn your auditors blue and they'll fall off their chairs. You got to breathe. You got to breathe. It's so much a part of the organic aspect of what we do as musicians. And what a model Lesley was. I actually learned about Lesley before anybody else on the faculty here did, because she was studying at the same school where I got my doctorate, and when they learned that she had applied for the job, they knew I was here, and they said, you got to take a really good look at this person. And they did, and so we were blessed with her presence on our faculty for those many years. I've lived in Denver since 2000, and so when she came down, when she retired and came to Denver, she came to the same church that my wife and I attend, and was part of the choir there so long as she was able. And I was able to visit with her when she was in rehab from the terrible cancers that she suffered from. And she did multiple rehabs. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever met a more courageous person in my entire life. And I am honored to be here to join in honoring her life. And the music that we got to make together is something I will never forget.
Beautiful. How can I even speak to you and everyone else with that? That was absolutely marvelous. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Charmaine Coppom, and it was my delight to be a friend with Lesley for so many years. I first met Lesley Manring-Borchers when she came to UNC to audition for us in 1992. I was chair of the voice department, and we were looking for a soprano who could perform professionally and would be an excellent teacher for our students. Lesley had a tremendously successful performing arts career, as you have heard, internationally and in the United States, and we were excited to meet her and greet her in Greeley, Colorado. To say we were delighted with meeting her, hearing her sing in person, and visiting with her about her experiences and her enthusiasm for working with young singers is to say the very least. This was exactly what we had hoped for. We immediately began negotiations to bring her to Greeley, and thank goodness she accepted our offer. I must admit, I thought, okay, this is great. I never ever expected us to become good friends, not to mention best friends, and that we would also get you eventually, Diane Bolden-Taylor. At that time, I had 2 little boys to raise, and I expected to have a diva, but certainly not a friend. Tony. When I learned that Lesley was also raising a little boy, I fell in love with your mother. I had a friend, a friendship, and we discovered, this is the point where some of you in the auditorium will need to cover your ears and take a deep breath. We were both totally, completely Democrats. Even while she was fighting cancer, I could always count on Lesley to call me or text me when something political happened, and we would start venting our disgust and the political situation for hours. Lesley and I became close friends, and although our sons went to different schools, we shared our support for each other and for them. Tony, you have been so strong, and you have been such a wonderful son for your mother and her grandchildren. I admire the way you have helped her, and also the way you have given her strength when she needed it, help when she needed it, and love that only a son can give to a mother when she is down and out. I also know the weight you carry, and that weight will be with you for a very long time. Tonight I am singing my version of Amazing Grace. This is for you, and it's from me to you. I believe your mother is finally at peace. I believe she is not suffering as she and you suffered through her terrible cancers. I want you to know she is well. She is free. She is still with you, and you will meet again. I believe that. I hope it will give you some comfort. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now talk about a hard act to follow. Thanks. We heard, as you were walking in, you heard many wonderful recordings of Lesley with her pyrotechnics, perfect technique, high notes, low notes, everything in between. But one of my fondest musical memories of Lesley was in a recital where she sang Amarilli with the simplest song with just such beauty and sensitivity. So I can't match that, but I offer this as a tribute.
Hello, everybody. I wouldn't even dare to try to sing in front of this, but it is so beautiful. My name is Jeri Shepherd. I think I know quite a few of you here. It was kind of a convoluted way how I ended up meeting Lesley. In 1999, the city of Greeley, some of us got together and tried to pass this thing called the Human Rights Ordinance. They got me involved because I'm a lawyer. Well, what I ended up doing was basically passing petitions around, which I actually had experience doing. we got it on the ballot, and then I started going to these meetings at this church on 35th Ave called Family of Christ. And unfortunately, we did not win the human rights ordinance. You had all the people come out of the woodwork, you know. We had 16 protected categories, and guess which one got everybody called me? But anyway, after that, on Martin Luther King Day weekend in 2000, I somehow decided to randomly show up to church to check it out. I've been, been largely unchurched as an adult. So I show up, and I meet all these amazing people, many of whom are in this room. And somehow I find a church home, and Lesley is a big part of that church home. And part of what we had in the church was a choir. And if you are familiar with the concept of Gestalt or the Theodore Sturgeon book, More Than Human, you talk about something being greater than the sum of its parts. And as a choir leader, Lesley was amazing at that. And I can't sing worth a darn, even though I love to sing, but somehow we sounded pretty darn good. And we sang some amazing stuff. I remember one Christmas Eve, we were doing all this super ambitious stuff, including the Magnificat, which I sang to my cat, because you had to practice, of course. But another aspect of my connection with Lesley, of course, was political stuff. I've been involved in various political things off and on, and somehow I got involved with the Weld County Democrats, and that was in 2004. And as you all know, we have this big parade on the 4th of July called the Stampede Parade. And Lesley had an idea. She was going to put together this costume with the Statue of Liberty, and she got a sheet and a fitted sheet and a flat sheet, and she got the hat and the crown, and she got the torch, and she asked somebody to wear it. Guess who? And it gets even better. That costume traveled to the city of Boston during the Democratic Convention. I got to wear it twice, and then we sent this young college girl named Katilyn to the convention. Her then boyfriend took the costume from me in Copley Square, and actually there's a picture of me in that costume in my office. And he took it to Katilyn, and she wore it on the convention floor. And you may have heard of this photographer named Richard Avedon. There was a retrospective of his work in late 2004. He had passed away. There's a full headshot of Katilyn in the costume that Lesley put together, identifying Katilyn from Greeley, Colorado. So Lesley made it to, the convention in Boston, Massachusetts. Now, what happened to that costume? Your guess is as good as mine. I think I heard that it kind of made the Greeley party circuit. There's one thing that still remains, the torch. And maybe there's some symbolism in that. As Lesley was always carrying the torch. And if you look at some of those pictures, even as she got older, you see some of them, she's got a glint of mischief in her eye. There is no question. And one last act of mischief. I don't know who sent it. This came to me about late last year sometime. And I have some ideas, but Lesley has not been ruled out as one of the suspects who sent this to me. There's no way in heck I can get at this darn thing. But I love the spirit behind it. I appreciate it. I kind of think that Lesley's spirit may have had something to do with that. I know her spirit rests in everyone she loved. I know in the beautiful music we hear, I think of Lesley, and I'm grateful I got to know her. I'm glad to be a part of this community. I don't want to ramble too much, so Lesley, we miss you down here, but we know you're up there. Peace.
I'm a great fan of the works of Richard Faith, here from our university, retired emeritus professor. He's back living in Tucson now since May. We're very graced to have him back in our midst, and I'd like to do one of his songs. I know about 25 of Richard's songs, and this one is probably my favorite, called The Blackbird.
Lesley saw it. And a few days later, she came floating in to the archives of the library where I was working. And she announced that I was her cousin. I had no idea I had a cousin. It seems that my dad, Denver Manring, had a father, Denver Manring, who had another son, Orville Manring, who was Lesley's dad's father. And I heard this story quite a few times, so I'm pretty sure I got everybody in there. She came floating into the archives and announced that I was her cousin. And after that, I had frequent telephone calls and visits from her. Right up to the end, she would call me as she was getting ready for her monthly meeting with the doll club here in Greeley. She couldn't walk, but she could drive, and she did. She knew all about the genealogy of the whole family, the story of which I heard several times and cannot remember. And I'm happy to be here. The one thing that I'm grateful for as relates to Lesley's dad is that she did not die in her car. She drove until the last months of her life. And it was impossible to believe that she could drive. But she did, and she was happy to do it. And I'm sure that there are several members of her doll club here.
This is for Tony. When I asked, yes I did, I wasn't invited, if I could be part of memorializing our dear friend, he reminded me that Lesley's sister, a fine cellist, had recorded a piece titled The Black Swan, the Song of the Black Swan. Tony, this is for you.
Oh, that was beautiful. I spent 17 years of my life performing opera concerts, song recitals in Europe. During that time, I met some of the most amazing conductors, stage, opera, and choir directors, as well as professional singers like myself. Well, Lesley Manring-Borchers was one of those singers with whom I had a friendship that lasted, Jim Fittz, over 40 years. My European engagements began in Switzerland, where I was a member of the International Opera Studio in Zurich, Switzerland. After a couple of years with the studio, during which time I sang major roles with the Zurich Opera House, and Lesley was wowing audiences in roles comparable to that of Emily in Menotti's Help the Globelings. My European agent, Stoll-Agentur, secured an engagement for me at the Bonn Opera House in Germany. I met Lesley upon my arrival in Bonn, in Europe. I want y'all to understand that. At the time, in the early 1980s, Bonn was still the capital of West Germany. It wasn't until 1991, after the German reunification. By the way, this was the peaceful revolution leading to the removal of the Berlin Wall, with East and West Germany subsequently entering negotiations towards eliminating the division that had been imposed upon Germans more than 4 decades earlier. Lesley and I got to experience this historical change together. I didn't know at the time I would be the first African-American singer hired to sing the role of Ännchen in the opera Der Freischütz in a German theater. Der Freischütz, meaning the free shooter or the marksman, by Karl Maria von Weber, is widely considered one of the first German masterpieces in the world of opera. It established a German romantic opera style with its folk material, mysticism, magic, danger, and a strong dose of the supernatural. It was Lesley who let me know what a big deal this was. She said, "Diane, do you realize how huge this is that they want you to sing and act this very German role as an African American?" Can't you just hear her asking me that? Lesley had just finished up her 2-year contract in Bonn and was headed to Augsburg. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tony. But before leaving the city, it was Lesley who showed me where the best grocery stores were and where to find furniture for my new apartment. And as those who know her can guess, she took me around to all the Flohmärkte, meaning thrift stores, she had frequented. Y'all know she was the queen of the garage sales and knew how to find new items even at the Goodwill. She made sure I knew what to expect from the intendant, meaning the theater administrator, the coaches, the costume designers, the dancers, and other singers in the theater. Having shared right away our religious beliefs, she didn't hesitate to introduce me to Stimson Memorial Chapel, home of the American Protestant Church in Bonn. This church was the official chapel of the American Embassy between 1959 and 1999. Here we were both invited by the organist pianist at the church, Margot Nisita, to sing major works of composers such as Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, Handel, you name it. We also performed operatic arias on many concerts sponsored by the church. In fact, the first time I heard Lesley sing was during a rehearsal for one of those concerts. I was blown away by both the beauty of her voice and the ease with which she sang, especially those extreme high notes. One critic described her singing this way, and I paraphrase: soprano Lesley Manring offers perhaps the most flawless singing of all, deploying her lyric soprano voice with exquisite grace and poise. She is utterly beguiling in her presentation, singing with the kind of perfect legato and breathtaking evenness that one seldom hears. That's no exaggeration. By the way, Lesley and I had the opportunity to sing a concert in Stimson Chapel, in which, and I am bragging, then President Jimmy Carter was in the audience. We were both beside ourselves with joy that day. After Lesley moved to Augsburg, we stayed in touch, and I sometimes visited her there. Her home was full of lots of love shown towards her son, her beloved son, Tony, and her husband at the time, Reinhard. Reinhard, by the way, was a sought-after French horn player who, over the years, was engaged in orchestras in Berlin, Nuremberg, Wuppertal, and Augsburg, just to name a few. Now, you know Lesley wouldn't hook up with anything less, right? Prior to meeting Lesley, I never knew that folks collected dolls. She had an extensive collection of them, dolls of every size and shape, many quite valuable. And of course, she could tell you the story behind every single doll she owned, whether you wanted to hear the story. She went on to sing with the well-known Bavarian radio choir. Lesley sang many solos with them, and got to sing with a number of famous international singers who recorded major works with the choir. Honestly, she made quite a bit more than I did singing in an opera house. After returning to the U.S. in the late 80s, early 90s, she did some doctoral studies in Arizona and later ended up accepting a position here on the faculty of the University of Northern Colorado, where she taught applied voice, diction for singers in French, German, Italian, and English, and for the graduate vocal literature courses in French, Italian, and Spanish art songs. She was so smart, so gifted. A few months into her contract here, 1992, she called me in Europe and asked, in true Lesley style, "Are you ready to come back to the United States yet?" There is a one-year position open for a voice teacher here at UNC in Greeley, Colorado, that I think would be a great fit for you. Of course, she had to explain to me where the heck Greeley was. Long story short, I applied, traveled here to do a live interview and masterclass, and was offered the position. Thanks to Dr. Howard Skinner, director of the School of Music at that time, what was meant to be a one-year contract turned into a tenure-track position. I will be forever grateful to Lesley and Howard, and at the time Charmaine and Virgie and Jim and so many more that were here early on who just welcomed me with open arms. Upon our arrival here in Greeley, it was Lesley who picked Rachel, my then 2-year-old daughter, and me up at the airport. It was Lesley who showed me around Greeley, and with whom we lived until I moved into one of the university faculty apartments. I still remember how Tony loved playing with that pet ferret who seemed to have the run of the house. It was Lesley who introduced me to the faculty, showed me where the best grocery stores were, went around with me too, and you guessed it, so many garage sales in town. And introduced me to the First Congregational Church, where almost all the voice faculty attended church services. We sang many concerts together and were fans of each other's singing. If there was a problem with a student, we knew we could confide in each other. Once I told Lesley I was having a problem with the parents of a boy student who had earned a grade of B instead of the A they wanted. The student said his mom and dad would be stopping by to visit with me on a particular day. It was Lesley who showed up at my office to make sure I was not alone when the parents showed up. She was such a devoted friend. It was Lesley who was so proud of her grandson, Christopher, that shortly after his birth, had his mom bring him over to one of our voice faculty meetings, just so we could ooh and ah over him. Oh, she was so proud of him, and over the years never ceased to tell me how smart he is, or how they would spend many hours talking about any and everything. I will be forever grateful to my friend Lesley for opening her heart to me and sharing so many pearls of wisdom, crazy jokes, her joys, her fears, her very strong political views, her love of astrology, that my granddaughter Deja was born on the 21st of December just meant for me that she was born a few days before Christmas. Not for Lesley. She had to let me know how special it was that she was born on the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, and that she is a Sagittarius and had the power to make her dreams become reality. On and on she went about it. Lesley and I shared the belief that our spirits are eternal and that our souls are forever. How very much she enriched my life, and oh, how I will miss her.
We come now to the time I promised you, where you would have your opportunity to share a remembrance or a tribute or a story. And we've had our opportunity. It's your turn. So I'll hold the mic for you. If the cord goes that far.
Hi, I knew Ms. Manring from being her student about 13 or so years ago. I was a doctoral student of hers, and one thing about teachers, especially, I have to say voice teachers, is that they're not just your teacher. You don't just go in and sing and then leave. They are your mentors, they are your therapists, they are your parents, surrogate parents. Because sometimes you spend your entire lesson just talking, and if you need to, and she was so much that, especially I'm so grateful for her support. She always had my back for any problems I had, anything that I needed. She was there to support me. I just felt her strength behind me, especially because I lost my own mother a few months before my first recital here. And she became my surrogate mother, and for that amount of time. And also I just realized her love of dolls. My mother also had an incredible love of dolls and collections, so it's neat that they had that in common. So I just wanted to express my thanks and love for her, and I'm sure any other students that are here remember that feeling of her always being like your surrogate mom. So I'm so grateful. I love you, Lesley, and you're with me every day. Thanks.
My name's Nicole, and I was in Doll Club with Lesley. And I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but listening to everyone talk about her, I was struck by the pieces of her that were across all of her life. So she continued to drive. She continued even after she lived in Denver to drive all the way up here to be in club with us. And the way I define it is Lesley came in like a little whirling dervish. Even in a wheelchair, she managed to execute that. And she was our resident professional German doll. She would tell us all the things about the German doll. So if we had questions, that's what she would share with us. Her collection was based out of being attached to it, finding it at a thrift store sometimes, at other sales and things that she would go to. But if it had a story, Lesley was attached to it, and she would tell you all about it. Her most recent passion was the American Girl doll, and she gave us a presentation on it, and she had a smorgasbord of fun things to show us. And there is an energy in her that we will miss and that we appreciated, and she will leave a hole in our cup. Thank you.
Oh boy, this is interesting. I haven't been here in this place since my senior recital 26 years ago. And I'm seeing some of the same faces that looked at me then. And I'm nervous again. Might as well see Tom Poole or Kai. And some of you may have heard of me. But Lesley, I believe I was the first bass in her studio. And Lesley and my mother became very close before my mother passed. And my mother united Lesley, my godmother, before she passed away. And Lesley lived up to that when my mother passed away. She was my road dog, is what she called me, and she knighted me, Sir Rodith of Dog. Diane, many of the stories of the dogs I had to endure. Probably all of them. But just speaking to Lesley, her strength, many of you know that she did live in pain for many years. And when I moved into my apartment, I'm having a hard time looking at you all because I see my voice faculty. Thank you. I'm serious. But I live on the 3rd floor, and the floors are very, very tall. And Lesley said that she wanted to come to dinner. I was having Taco Tuesday. She says, I'm coming. And Lesley was in that wheelchair, but many of you don't know that Lesley could walk a little bit, but it was very difficult. And Lesley climbed the stairs. It took Lesley 2.5 hours to come upstairs. And 3 hours to go down, and I had to sit with her for the 3 hours. But she did it. Not because she wanted tacos, but because she wanted to sit in my home before she transitioned. And I'm saying that to say this also, but I don't know if that picture's up there, but there's a picture of me holding a picture of Lesley with this bracelet. A bracelet that she found at a thrift store. But this bracelet has angels on it. And shortly before Lesley passed away, Lesley gave this to me and said, "Kai, I'll always be with you." And she's still with me, speaking to me now, even. So one of the things that I did tonight is I had this bracelet recreated. But there's angels and there's also pictures of Lesley in it also. So I have some of those, and if any of you want to get them. Some of us already have them, and they're awesome. But talk to me later about what that's all about if you're interested in one of them. But one of the things that I'm very proud of is my stepson, who is now running for office in Denver, is a Democrat. I would say because of this. Because she used to babysit him. And he's gonna win. He's gonna win. He's gonna win. But it's just amazing who Lesley is and who she will continue to be in all of our lives. And I appreciate all of you for being here. And special thanks to my little brother, Tony, for allowing me to be a part of his life as well. Because he had to share his mom, and I know it wasn't always easy, but he did it gracefully and beat me up verbally in the garage occasionally.
Hi everybody, this will be practice for later because I see him on the program and I wasn't aware of that. So my mom, hi everyone. My mom had a great group of friends and some of them are in the audience tonight and some of them couldn't be here. Some of them were at the service on the 11th and I appreciate them for coming. One of them is Ellen Crawford. I don't know if any of you know her, but if you Google her, she's very famous. She's a Hollywood actress, and she was friends with my mom in the high school years. And so she wrote this. I'd like to read this from Ellen. I like to refer to Lesley as my fierce friend because she was so committed to all she believed and all she achieved. The antonym of fierce is gentle, and she was that as well. She was indeed fierce and gentle, stubborn and flexible, I'm going to struggle on that word, infatigable and vulnerable. Such a sublime mix of contradictions. Her spirit, which lives on in all who knew her, has always been in pursuit of beauty and justice. Our years at University High School in Normal, Illinois, were filled with wonderful artistic experiences that we shared. I was Carrie Piper Ridge to her Julie Jordan in Carousel, Sabina to her Miss Antrobus in The Skin of Our Teeth, Mary Queen of Scotland to her Elizabeth I. We sang and played our guitars in coffee houses as a folk trio with Karen Smith. I think we called our little trio Little Women, though none of us liked the name much. What a gift to work with such an extraordinary talent so early in my career. Most importantly, Lesley remained a cherished friend for life. Following Lesley's brilliant European career, we reconnected when she returned to the U.S. teaching in Arizona. I was performing in Under Milk Wood at Arizona Theater Company, and I was able to visit Lesley, meet her little boy Tony, and share our disappointment on the presidential election night that year. It was was easier to weather it together. And there was, as I recall, popcorn and wine involved, which also cushioned the blow. Although our visits were sporadic, I was able to come to Colorado on a few occasions. Most of the time we relished long phone conversations, chatting about family, the arts, politics, social issues. If only we could run the world, all would be fine. I was aware of Lesley's astonishingly difficult health challenges, but that was rarely her focus in our conversations. She was one of the most courageous individuals I've ever known. When she did speak of her health, it was to speak of her determination, to watch her grandson Christian grow up. Our last conversation was around the holidays, again sharing family stories, talking about the arts, sharing outrage over politics, and generally solving the problems of the world. Characteristically, Lesley did not dwell on her health issues, so even though I was always aware of my friend's battles with her body, I was surprisingly shocked when Tony wrote of her passing that morning it happened. It just seemed that she had always miraculously triumphed over her challenges, and I could not imagine she would ever succumb. In the most essential way, she has continued to triumph. Lesley has shown us the way to keep on fighting for our lives, for our beliefs, and for our legacy. I miss her, but know she remains with me in her spirit and example. Rest in power, dear friend. Never has there been a more glorious voice in heaven. Thank you, Ellen. And another one of the great 8, there was 8 of them, high school friends, and they all became amazing individuals, all 8 of them. And here's another one from Jane Templeton. I met Lesley in the fall of 1964 when we started our freshman year at University High School in Normal, Illinois. My memory isn't good enough to confirm which classes we shared, but I am certain we were in chorus together. In a bunch of teenagers unsure of their singing ability, Lesley stood out. From the beginning, we all knew she would go on to do big things with her musical talents. By the end of freshman year, Lesley and I sang together with 6 of our classmates in a double quartet at Contest, and the 8 of us became fast friends, singing as an ensemble throughout high school. While in high school, we also shared orchestra, student council, speech team, school plays, and the pom-pom squad. Yes, the pom-pom squad. After graduation in 1968, I managed to keep track of Lesley as she moved around the world, and we stayed in touch in a variety of ways. We visited in our hometown once when she bought a huge collection of antique dolls and convinced me that by selling off the loose body parts, she'd be able to pay for the entire estate. And I think she did, in parentheses, and yes, she did. She did that. All right. We were able to visit again when she brought Reinhardt home after their wedding in Germany. Lesley, Reinhardt, and Tony, then an infant, visited me in the mid-1980s in Greeley, where I was working for District 6 in my first job after law school. What a coincidence that she ended up at UNC long after I'd moved on. One of our last times together was in July 2010, when I invited our high school girlfriends, the famous 8, to come to my home in Salida for a week to celebrate our 60th birthdays. Lesley was so excited to see everyone, many of whom had not seen each other since we graduated, and we all shared so many memories. It was a very special time. Reliving those memories of Lesley reminds me what an amazing musician and loving friend she was. I feel very privileged to have been part of her life for so many years. Thank you all. Anybody else?
Yes.
So I've known Lesley, I don't know how long now, it's many years. And Dr. Taylor and Charmaine, great to see you, great to see Jim. Such a blessing to be here. I have to tell you a story though about Lesley. I don't even know if Tony knows this story. Hawaii together. And before we left, we were traveling with 3 other people. And, hi Hannah. and so we flew into San Francisco, and the plane, they had to reroute us through San Francisco, and they were socked in. There was immense amounts of fog. So Lesley, I told her to go on and with Beth Mitchum. And we were on our way to Jessica Heacock's wedding, which was beautiful. So anyway, I managed to overcome three total fears in my life that trip. And I flew over the ocean by myself, which was something that was crazy. And I was doing fine until the pilot announced that we were halfway there. And then I knew that there was just water all over underneath. Anyway, so we got into, we had to be rerouted to Honolulu, and our destination was Kauai. And she just was amazing. She took care of everything. She got a hotel room, and I remember not sleeping at all because I was too upset about the storm. We were flying into a hurricane, basically. And so, to make a long story short, we finally get to Kauai, and there's a storm there, and the water is coming in sideways. It's raining sideways. And so we met one of the persons there that was Beth's dad. We met him there, Beth's father. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. He said, well, let's just go ahead and go on the cruise. And I was like, no, we're not going anywhere. This is like a blizzard in Colorado. We are not going anywhere. And so, okay, so to get to the main story now. So, Lesley, I'm laying in the bed, having devotions actually, and this giant king spider comes crawling across me. And Lesley, I said, Lesley? She knew something was wrong. She came running around the corner. She was in the other room. And she took off her shoe. And this was like a flip-flop. It was not even a flip-flop. It was one of those little thin slippers. And she just started hammering the hell out of it. And that's who Lesley was. She just didn't let anything stop her, anytime, any place. And it was like I hadn't slept in 24 hours. And so she said, well, just keep your eyes open because where there's one, there's probably two.
Hi, my name is Kenna, and I came by Lesley via FOC also. I had 2 mothers, one who could go to FOC anytime she wanted and did always, and a second one that was not allowed in the building because it would have fallen down because of her religious, lack of religious belief. But anyway, I wanted to just be here to I'm kind of a generation removed, and I just want to say thanks for Lesley's life. She was just a riot. She would fly into the house, and she would hand my blood mother the computer and say, fix this to yesterday.
And she would grab Anne, who you've seen up there. She plays guitar with Anne in one of her many lives of music and genres of music. But I also wanted to share a funny story because I never quite knew what to do with Lesley. And she flew into the house one day, and I said, well, I have to go get my brakes fixed. And she said, I never fix my brakes on my car. And I was astonished, and I go, well, why? And she goes, I never use them. So when you mentioned, I'm glad she didn't die in her car, I got that. Just one thing I want to leave you with. I know that she touched your lives, but I just want to remind you that you touched her lives as well. And she loves each of you and had so many memories and so many stories to tell. So thank you for that.
My name is Haley, and I wanted to say a story about one time me, Tony, and Christian got back and from snowboarding, and I went to go say hi to Lesley, and then Christian said, oh, let's get Chick-fil-A because I'm hungry, and then we went to go get it, and then Christian said to Lesley, oh, Chick-fil-A is homophobic, and then after that, Lesley looked at her food in disgust, and she said, I'm never going to eat there ever again. And then, always, whenever I would go there, I would bring a doll, and dolls like these, she would give to me, and we would have little fashion shows of dolls, and she would always make little funny jokes. And one time there was a dog, and she put one of the doll's outfits on there, and she started shaking the dog around. And then she was just a very, everybody says, courageous and wholesome person. She would always be helping me throughout problems. If I was sad, she would always help out through a problem. And also she would always say to me, once she would come back, she was going to come back as a black cat.
The most surprising look that I ever got from Lesley, my beautiful friend and colleague in the UNC School of Music, was when I had a great sense of urgency and purpose, walked straight into her office during a voice lesson, making the mistake that this was right next to the men's restroom and praise the Lord. So we had a good laugh about that for many years. During many of our, and gratefully that's where the story ends, just with a surprise note. For all the hundreds of auditions that I did for the choirs at the beginning and the fall of every year, and I was Leslie's colleague for her entire time at UNC, the sopranos would come in and they would sing for me, and they didn't put on their audition form whose studio they were in. And I would look at them sweetly and supportively and say, "You're in Professor Manring's studio, aren't you?" And they'd say, "Why, yes, how did you know that?" And I could tell from the clarity and the beauty of their voice, the great voice teacher that she was. Lesley knew how to impress me. Once she gave me a folder of music that she had sung with the Bavarian Radio Choir, which impressed me to no end in and of itself. But the first piece that was in there was a set of very difficult folk songs by Bartók. I think she was trying to see if I could do these with the concert choir. There was never in a million years I could have done these for the concert choir. And as I leafed through the pages that she had performed with the Bavarian Radio Choir, the piece had just gotten more and more and more difficult. She was really, really a marvelous, marvelous artist in every sense of the word. I loved her. She was so supportive of me. Talk about someone who knew how to impress a choral director. Once when I was in her office, she handed me a CD, and it was, she says, here, I was in the Bavarian radio choir when we sang this, and it was a recording of one of the great Haydn masses and with Leonard Bernstein. Lesley was wonderful. I will miss her dearly. Remember when we sing, I'll be conducting you in the last number that we sing. Don't worry about how you sing. Don't worry that Lesley's looking down on you. Just sing beautifully.
I think we all have a Lesley story, so we could be here all night. I'll try to be short. I just wanted to say that no matter Lesley has such talent and was a coloratura and all the education and music she had in her background. When she sang with us, I was part of that little group that she was with Anne on the guitar, and I was on the hammered dulcimer. She was so non-judgmental and so forgiving. Anne and I were average musicians, and we were folk singers, and she toned her voice down so much to blend with us, and she played the violin with us, a fiddle, and it was just amazing that she was such a diva on one hand, like with that one letter that Tony read. She was such a dichotomy of so many different kinds of people inside her. And then I had another little story too about, I don't know how, about half the audience here probably has had a cataract fixed. Well, Lesley came up to Greeley because we have this lovely, wonderful doctor up here, eye doctor, and she needed to have a ride to the hotel because the next morning after the surgery, you have one eye patch and you can't drive, and so we found a motel for her close by, and I took her there, and everything was fine. Well, the second eye, she came up from Denver again to do the same thing, and she said, I don't need to do this, I can drive back to Denver. So they see you to the car, and the nurse came out with Lesley to my car, to her car, because Lesley was going to drive all the way to Denver with her still under anesthesia and with one eye patch. And so we had to fake, and I didn't want to lie, but you know Lesley, she would push ahead. And she said, we'll just pretend that I'm going to the hotel this time and pretend that Tony was going to come pick her up. And so after I left, she drove all the way to Denver like that. So I made sure that she texted me when she got back. So, and with Mary was talking about that too, about we were half the time we were afraid she would run into somebody. She was okay behind the wheel. Anyway, that's all. We will miss Lesley, and I know all of us will expect a phone call about the Dems or something.
Well, I guess it's my turn. You guys hear me? So I was a former student of Lesley's, and I was here for a short time in the early 2000s, and then I left for a bit and came back in the late 2000s, finished up my undergrad degree in vocal performance. And Lesley was always my vocal coach, but I giggled because as I brought all this stuff, this keyboard and the computers, and trying to connect to this system, which we found wasn't going to connect the exact way we thought it was, and all this stuff, and I could just hear Lesley going, God, you're freaking me out, Steve. Please, enough with the technology. I have it exactly how I want it. Please don't touch it. You're going to ruin it, I can already tell. Because she was so nervous about me touching anything. But at the same time, she trusted me to do it, because late 2000s when I came back, she was still asking her students to bring cassette tapes to record the diction lessons. And I said, Lesley, you could just go on your computer, there's an app right there, and you could just record it and email it to them. It's much easier. And so that was a leaps and bounds for her technology-wise, because her computer screen was mainly used to put sticky notes on. And so if anybody in her student know that was surrounding her computer, I'm like, there's an app for that too. But anyways, I got to live with her for a short period of time after I graduated, and I was able to transfer all audio recordings you heard and videos and stuff like that were stuff that she had me transfer as kind of like a thank you for letting me stay with her. So we have a massive catalog, which is fantastic. But everybody talking has been amazing because all I hear the word in general is advocate. She was an advocate for so many people and things, and advocate for her students. And every time we would go into her lessons, as I think Heather was mentioning, is just this, we would spend an hour and then she's like, oh shoot, we haven't done any of your repertoire yet, you know. But she was more often concerned about developing you as a person than just your musicianship. And so she was always an advocate for her students, and that's what I absolutely loved. And so I got a little bit of a chance to talk to her about her spiritual life later on in life, and that was wonderful. And so there was 2 songs on a recital I actually saw from Blackbird that I wanted to do that are on there that I think it was a spiritual, more modern Christian song that she did, and I thought this would be fantastic because I do that now. I still have to lead worship for churches, so I hope you enjoy.
Touch your people once again. Tony, dude, I'm so sorry for putting you right after that.
Thanks a lot, guys. It's, I mean, I grew up with this amazing force of a woman, you know, and I wasn't expecting that. And she was a hovering parent when I was younger, and I appreciate her for that now. And I know she was just trying to, you know, she was just doing her best, always. And it was hard to kind of grow up with someone like that because, you know, she was trying to show you that, and you didn't quite, whatever, but she just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, and she never really stopped. And she never gave up, and she never quit on anybody, especially me. And so, I didn't plan for this very well. And so when you live with someone like that, and you know, I was probably in the audience for a lot of those performances and a lot of those things, and you know, you don't really realize it when you're a kid or appreciate, you know, until later. That sounds messed up, but it's true. You don't really appreciate it till later. You know, everything that she did for me and everything that she did for us, and her fierceness, right? Whether it was right or wrong or whatever, she's just gonna do it. Yeah. And so I feel like she passed that on, hopefully, to me and Christian out there, and Ben and Bella and Haley too, and Little Pizza, who's not here tonight. So I feel like I'm rambling, but yeah, no, I mean, my mom was something else, and it's evidenced by everyone in this room. Took the time out to come and be here tonight, so I want to thank you. There's a couple dolls left out there. I hope I don't have to take any of them home. I got enough, trust me. Take those dolls, and there's a book out there. There's a sticky note on it, and the sticky note says, "Tony, if I die, keep this book. I'm on page 480." And so that book's out there. And yeah, just, you know, lots of things like that. I mean, I could go on and on. It feels like I was her biggest challenge, I think, perhaps in life. Me. Not all this stuff you see here, but me personally. And she was my biggest strength, and she always believed in me no matter what, you know, no matter what I did or what I screwed up, and then later, you know, when things were going great, she's like, "See, I told you." So, all right. I love my mom, so thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, everybody's expected to make animal sounds when it is appropriate. Okay. Oh, this is when I play guitar alone, and I'm not really a guitarist, so bear with me. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on a telephone wire. Others clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. That's the chorus. Let's try it together. All God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on a telephone wire. Others clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Woo, you are really good. Okay, it's gonna be fun. Okay. Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom where the bullfrog croaks and the hippopotamus moans and groans with a big to-do. The old cow just goes moo. All God's creators
and some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Others just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. The dogs and the cats, they take up the middle while the honeybee hums and the cricket fiddles and the donkey brays and the pony neighs. The old coyote howls. Listen to the top where the little birds sing on the melodies with the high notes ringing. The hoot owl hollers over everything and the jaybird disagrees. All God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on a telephone wire. Others just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Singing in the nighttime, singing in the day. The little duck quacks, then he's on his way. The possum ain't got too much to say, and the porcupine talks to himself. Mumble, 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 mumble. I don't hear you mumbling. Mumble, 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 mumble. Oh, that's wonderful. All God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Others clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. It's a simple song of living sung everywhere by the ox and the fox and the grizzly bear, the grumpy alligator and the hawk above, and the sly raccoon and the turtle dove. All God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on a telephone wire. Others just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. All God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing high and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on a telephone wire. Others just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
Our service is coming to a close now. I'd like to remind you that Tony and family invite you downstairs, 2 floors down, after the service for food and refreshment and more stories that you might not have had the opportunity to tell. As we've remembered her tonight, Lesley was a bright and lusty and feisty and fierce spirit. So it seems appropriate to close our celebration with a love sonnet written by the Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. Hear it now and receive it as a last charge from Lesley, blessing us from the beyond with the full force of her love. Neruda wrote, "When I die, I want your hands on my eyes. I want the light and the wheat of your beloved hands to pass their freshness over me once more. I want to feel the softness that changed my destiny. I want you to live while I wait for you, asleep. I want your ears to hear the wind. I want you to sniff the sea's aroma that we love together. To continue to walk on the sand that we walked on. I want what I love to continue to live. And you whom I love and sing above everything else, to continue to flourish full-flowered, so that you can reach everything my love directs you to, so that my shadow can travel along in your hair, so that everything can learn the reason for my song."
Here are your notes. Here's the bass note. Tenor, alto, soprano.
Keep
before you guys go, we gotta give a little props to this wonderful man over there, Brian Clay Lula, for his wonderful work with his family. Special gracious and the team, and everybody really wonderful.